let's do this. I'm going to quickly introduce myself and then I'd like each of you guys to run through. But I am Brad Kugler, the co-founder and CEO of Direct Mail 2.0, which recently acquired Who's Mailing What, which had been around for, I think, 40 plus years. And we're just on the cusp of launching our AI direct mail modeling platform, which is open for beta at dm20.ai. I love technology. I love talking business, and nothing more exciting than get a couple of divergent and varied viewpoints of this industry together to kind of give their shed light on what they see. And we're going to use you guys as an audience to tell us what you see too. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who's at the bottom of my screen here, and that's why he's called first and no other reason. Mike, introduce yourself, please.
Great. Thanks, Brad, for having me. Mike Philie with the Philie Group. So I spent all my career in the printing industry. Since 2007, I offer consulting services to owners and CEOs and senior teams who are trying to get their company to play to their potential. Work with companies all over the country, write blogs, do a few of these. Have a great time in this business. Have a lot of passion for this, and a lot of upside still in everything that we do. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Arika, you're next up.
Hi, everyone. Arika Stoecker from Case Paper Company. I started my career in sales right out of college, Indiana University, go Hoosiers. Any Hoosier alums out there, any Hoosier fans? But started at Case right out of college, 12 years in sales, developing business in the Midwest region, as I said, in and around the Chicago area and states, and spent the last 3 trending to 4 years in business development. So really overseeing our business growth from coast to coast. Case Paper is a privately held distributor converter of paper and paperboard grades that support the print and packaging applications in business. And we've been in business 80 plus years at this point. So coast to coast, we service most customers nationally.
Thank you, Arika. All right, Marc, tell us about what you do.
Hey guys, my name is Marc Johnson. I am the Senior Global Segment Manager for Commercial Print and Direct Mail. And that's just a big long title that says I'm the DM guy in HP's Industrial Print Division. So you may know us because of our Indigo presses or our PageWide inkjet presses. We're probably pretty well known in the DM space. We are in 8 of the top 10 direct mail printers according to revenue in North America, and around the world. Direct mail is not quite as strong as it is in the US. We're still the leaders in the world. We still have a very active and vibrant direct mail business. So that's what I do. I care very deeply about direct mail and want to do anything I can to help you guys make it the most productive and ROI driven advertising medium possible.
Thank you, Marc. And last but not least, Jim, tell us about what you do.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Russell with New Direction Partners. We are an investment banking firm that specializes in the printing and packaging industry. Those are the only industries we work in. So we help business owners when they're ready to sell or exit or move on to their next phase of life. We help them find the right buyer, put together the deal, and hopefully find a buyer that's the right cultural fit for their business. So like Mike, we work across the country in any segment of the printing and packaging industry.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. I painstakingly curated this group for a reason. So this is talking about the elephant in the room, as it was titled, and we're going to have a very frank and open discussion about changes in the industry. So if you can see from what each of these panelists do, one is a hardware manufacturer that is very well known. The brand speaks for itself. A supply chain of Case Paper, Mike Philie, who consults printers and ownership and anybody, and then Jim, of course, who works on M&A investment banking in this industry. If anybody's got a view of the state of the industry, these 5 viewpoints are absolutely poised to probably give the most accurate, at least a formation of data that if you pull all of their viewpoints together, you'll probably get the best possible view of it, short of Winterberry's State of the Industry or some of the other ones we've read, but these are the live people. And what I like to do here is, no one's really selling anything. Everybody's come here just for the fact that they want to participate in this discussion. And I just don't want their participation. I'd like the audience to participate. I have a couple of questions that I'm going to put up in a second, but what I'd like to know, and Jim had brought this up, is what is the demographics of the audience? If you want to throw up in the chat, and I'll read them off, are you a commercial printer? Do you focus in direct mail, wide format? Are you not? Are you part of the supply chain? Are you a manufacturer of some sort? What is your relation to this industry? So if you can just run some of these off, I'm already seeing an MSP, direct mail service provider. It'd be good to know who we're talking to. It helps us couch our responses. So far, we're 10 for 10 printers and PSPs and MSPs, a digital marketing agency, a former owner, DM service provider, a B2C marketing agency. So this is what print broker, a software vendor, print marketing, direct mail designer, in-house printer, marketing consultant. So USPS even, good, print and direct mail. This is great. All right. So is anybody sort of on the fringe of this or not even anything to do with this industry? I don't want to bore you, but we would like to make something relevant to what's going on out there. But that's fine either way. It just helps us know who we're talking to. 35 years in direct mail and print marketing. It's great. Great, great, great. AI print manager, former CMO of an e-commerce firm. Fantastic. Fantastic. That's excellent, guys. So the first thing I want to do is, because everybody has a feeling about 2026. In my conversations, I talk to a lot of people, and I like to put my ear to the rail like anyone else does. So the only way to get a feeling about something is you sort of have something to compare it to. So and I would appreciate if people are honest on this. It's absolutely anonymous, and I'm not asking for any numbers. I'm launching a survey right now that asks you, how was your 2025 compared to 24? You have to pick one. Were you up nicely? Were you up a little? Flat? Flat means up 1%, down 1%. Anything that's within 1%, don't worry, that's considered flat. Slightly down or definitely down. I want to see if my predictions are correct. So they're coming in now. I don't know. Is there a way to share this I want to let it run for a minute. While we're letting this run, because I really would like to get almost everybody to respond to this. My company was up 1.5% top line revenue. Our EBITDA was actually up a little more than that, thankfully, but that was pretty small growth compared to what we've had in previous years. So obviously, as a founder and an owner, and we turned over every rock for that 1.5% growth. I'm telling you, we we did it all. I don't know what else we could have done that we didn't do, and I am transparent and honest, but up is up, so I'm happy that we are up. Any of you care to answer on those? I mean, you guys have different business models, so I don't know that it correlates, especially Mike and Jim. Theirs isn't really based on somebody coming and making an order. It happens when it happens. But go ahead. Who would like to comment first? We'll start with Jim.
Put it out there. I was going to say, I from a hardware perspective, we're I think a little different than folks actually producing mail. When we looked across our user base, I can track things like supplies usage and clicks and pages and stuff like that. And from our vantage point, the folks specifically in commercial and direct mail, our customers were up about 5 to 6% as a overarching rule of thumb. So
is that revenue or number of pieces? Since you guys track
number of things. Yeah, number of things, pages or clicks. So the quantities were up, and that's consistent with how it's always been for our user base over the last, when I track it for about 10 years. That's about what our customers do. Is they always tend to beat the market by some kind of a factor 2 to 4. I was just looking at Winterberry's numbers, and they just came out a couple of weeks ago. And Winterberry said, if my computer will cooperate with me, we had a little bit of a decline. There was a flat with postal volumes from 63 to 61 billion pieces, so a little down. But if you pull that out and look at what's transaction versus what's publication versus what's direct mail, which they don't do, and I've got some friends at Mindfire that do that kind of research, we're seeing that the marketing direct mail is actually up a skosh, writ large.
That's what we saw. Arika, from the supply
Yeah,
chain side.
Yeah, I like Marc's vantage point too because they can dial into some unique data, which makes it interesting. But at Case, we made some deliberate decisions this year to strengthen our business for the long term. So we had some consolidation, so that does impact our numbers slightly. But revenue for us, sales revenue at least, was down probably about 6%, I would say. And then when paralleled that to volume and what that equates to, it was about 9% for us. So we were slightly down this past year in 2025.
I think what I'm seeing kind of correlates with that. If you look at the mass mailings, I hate using the term junk mail, so forgive me for that, but the mass non-personalized stuff that's traditionally done with offset printing, that stuff we're seeing go down dramatically. And what we're seeing is the digital stuff, the higher value stuff going up. Not quite enough to compensate, so that correlates with your volume decline.
Yeah,
Right.
I think there was a Printing United Alliance survey that came out in 2025, and it basically said, in round numbers, 2/3 of the printers saw sales decline, 1/3 saw sales increase, and overall it was about a 0.7% increase in 2025. So not a stellar year for most printers.
No. And Mike, you as a consultant, what have you seen? You read the tea leaves probably as close as anyone.
So the way I look at it is I look back at the companies that over the last 2 or 3 years were growing considerably. They were on a pretty high rate of trajectory of growth. And, if 2 or 3 years ago they had grown 10, 12, 13, 15%, those guys this past year, maybe they grew 5, maybe 4, maybe 6. But then the other thing that I see though is that at least with the people that I hang around with, the bottom line is lagging to that. Right. So even though they grew, the bottom line isn't where they want it to be, and a lot of it is digesting the heavy growth that they did in the past. It could have been through an acquisition that maybe Jim helped them with, or maybe another one. Right. But when I look at, if you strip out the acquisitions, the growth from there, 4, 5, 6% at least for the more progressive companies that I see. The other guys are probably holding steady. It's kind of a wash, I can only tell you from my perspective, my business was up about 11% last year. I tracked that pretty religiously as well.
Good. That's great information. I don't know. Can you guys see the survey or don't you see it?
Can't see
You don't
it.
see it? Okay. I don't want to push end because then maybe it goes away. But so I'll run through it. I'll push end and we'll see what options it gives me. But we had about 58% of the people on fill it out. It looks like the largest category was flat, up or down, plus or minus 1%. It looks like that turns out to be about 30% of the respondents. Okay. The next largest category is slightly up, which I'd put that at about 20%, not even, maybe 22% actually, up 1 to 9%. The next biggest category would be up nicely, 10% plus. That was 13 respondents out of 79. So that percentage, I guess I'd put it roughly in the high teens or so. And then the slightly down was fourth, and the definitely down was the fifth place. So I'm going to end the poll and see if it shares results. Okay, here we go. So we'll share it, and then people can see for a minute what everybody said.
It's pretty balanced.
Yeah. It's a typical bell curve that you'd expect. I was expecting a bit worse. Now, not everybody participated. Um, my guess is it either wasn't relevant or there may be some shame. I don't know, you know. So we'll see. We'll see. But
Interesting corollary. I mentioned the Winterberry numbers for postal volumes were down a little bit. It looks like their overall revenue for direct mail, they reported down 3.1%, which as you know, especially that revenue number could be very much impacted. It's a marketing spend, so that very much could be, you know, it could be that their volumes have gone up, whether the marketing spend for direct mail doesn't always correlate to volumes.
yeah. I totally understand, especially with the price increases of postage and people some people like to discount, some don't. I saw in the chat, I don't ever discount. Good for you.
Hey,
Um, maybe he should be on the webinar next to teach us how to do that. But all right, so I have another one of these that are kind of fun. Um, and basically, and it's asking, it wants to, I know it's very early. We're barely a month into 2026, but it's more about sentiments. Okay. A lot of what people make in their lives, I believe, is based on mindset. So I want to see, and please don't fake and be positive to be part of the team. Tell us how you actually feel. Okay. It's important that we be honest here and not try to put something in your mind that may not be what you're feeling. Of course, you can do whatever you want, but it gives us the ability to discuss and see what we can do with these answers. So they're coming in quick. God, we've almost already hit the volume of the last survey. So we may have more participation in this quiz here. I can give you a little preview as it's coming in. I don't want to cut it off. That by far, one of the responses is it's going to be a struggle, just like 2025, but I'm being optimistic. That there's only three choices. The other choice is very positive, a definite return to growth. Everything is coming up roses already. Okay, that was the and then of course the last one was negative, looking for a direction or something to change. Okay, that's the white flag. And listen, if there isn't at least 10% of those, I don't believe it. There's always 10% of those. And we're going to discuss that because everybody has those days. I've had those days, and I try to stay very positive. So definitely more participation in this one. That's great. I'll tell you some of the comments. Somebody says he's positive because of the discounts he's getting. So obviously there's a few of us giving discounts, myself being one of them. Um, Another one said, listen, I'm choose A because I want to manifest it. I understand, and I tried to mitigate that with my comments, but it's going to happen. Um, there's a little back and forth with the discount issue. I don't need to foment that fire. It is what it is. All right, I think everybody's answered. We got 10 more people participating in this one, and I'll share this, and then I'll let the panel comment. All right, and I already think I have some questions. So you guys can all see that now, right?
Yep.
there you go.
Yeah, you
Oh,
go.
wow.
Okay. Yeah,
A lot of realists out there.
a lot of realists, which is okay. I mean, there has to be some truth and acceptance in order to find change. So I would put myself in that middle category as well. Um, I saw a comment or a question from somebody that I feel the need to bring it up. Uh, I'm going to find it here because we're getting a lot of interaction. Well, Jesse Mansfield says to everyone, the trend is down seemingly in 2025. What are the causes? Down is underreported always, up is overreported always. I think there's some truth to that. People have always said good news travels fast, bad news travels slow in most cases. Um, the next question is, what are the reasons? I want to hold off because the last quiz asks them what their reasons are, and then we can kind of discuss that. But interesting. I would say there's no real surprises other than I'm surprised that more people were up than I had expected for 2025. So that's good news. Good news. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. This is fun, isn't it? I like doing this, you know. I tend to you find out so much. Just ask the people. All right, so this one is about the biggest barrier to growth. Okay. This one has about 7 or 8. The poll is now open. It'll take some people but I'll read it to the panelists. What do you think is your biggest barrier for 2026? The first is new customer acquisitions. And again, audience, you can only choose one. So it's asking for the biggest, the most problematic or deterministic of your coming year's revenues. You may have issues with all of these, and I understand that. Anyways, new customer acquisitions. The next is tariffs and government regulations. The third is customer retention. The third is economic and socio-political uncertainty. The next is personnel, management, or succession issues. The next is capital investment and interest rates. Capital requirements, investments, and interest rates. So that would be a cash issue. Supply chain issues. Not to pick on anyone here, but nobody's picked that yet, so that's a good sign. The next one, or the last one, is technology adoption, integration, and modernization. And then I've left an open category called other, if it's something I didn't list. And I'd love to see in the chat the people that have chose other. What other items did I forget? Okay. I am not a commercial printer, in which 90% of you seem to be, so I don't know all your struggles. I would have a feeling that my panelists would know your struggles much better than I would. Although we get lots of objections when we call them for various things, and I've captured most of them here. So, all right. So what do we have here in some of the other? I'll read you these as people take their time. I know there's a lot of options here.
Now putting postal on there was a miss.
Yeah, I've seen that. Marketing is print owners' biggest weakness, from Warren Warbit, who we all know Warren. That's valid. That is valid. I don't know if it's a barrier, it's a weakness. Postage rate increases, 100%. Convincing, this it must be rhetorical. Convincing beer drinkers to start to love wine is a losing battle. How do we get individuals and organizations who understand and want to leverage print and mail to do more and to a better effect? That's a great question, and I will spend some time going over that, because you're talking about increasing the size of the pie, which I believe to be a monumental task, but it is worth discussing.
Well, just think about it, all the marketing folks you deal with in your day to day. How many of them don't come with a knowledge of print or the understanding of how print marketing works and what it can do? I mean, I spend a good portion of my time talking with print sales teams about how they can engage the new generation of marketeers that they're talking to who don't get print, who everything to them is social media clicks and responses that way, getting them to understand and then prove it out that layering print on top of your digital campaigns actually is an accelerant. So but it's a consultation. Whoever asked the question in the chat, how do you get printers to start talking about that? That's the magic, is having those consultative conversations, and it's a whole different ball game from what print sales reps did 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well,
so actually, Marc, let me jump in on that real quick, because I totally agree with you. It is a different ball game. I think one of the snags is that it's a different conversation we need to be having with our customers, right? Not how many do you want and where do you want them, but what's the net effect of this? How will this help drive your business? What's the impact on this business, right? It's a business conversation. And to me, it's always been starting at a higher level and kind of working your way down to really understand how print helps to drive the success of this organization. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, then you're probably following the wrong people.
Yeah.
Right. But it's too often and you guys see it as well. We have a lot of sales organizations that they grew up in a time when you just had to kind of show up and you could take orders, and really they've become really good account managers. And they take care of their customers, very reactive, all over the requests. But as far as the proactivity, as far as digging deeper, digging higher, digging wider within an organization, that's the part that they struggle with. And Marc, to your point, if you're going to have those conversations, you have to change the questions you ask and who you ask them to.
Terry said it in the chat, stop selling print. Right on, Terry. We're not selling print, we're selling results.
Right.
Actually, that's really the key point. And I've noticed that the commercial printers that still think they're a manufacturer and they're not selling marketing, that seems to be the break between the people that grow and the people that stagnate. Now, there is a need for just trade printers that do not, they are experts in manufacturing in quantity and delivering that result. They are not trying to do anything else but manufacture ink on paper. And there is a need for those. However, economies of scale will win in the long run. And as there's consolidation, acquisitions, mergers, whatever, the people that want to just be manufacturers and they build and make that business efficient will continue to do well. The ones that are the smaller print companies that also say they do marketing will need to rise to the occasion and become more of a service company. Yes, they still manufacture, but maybe at some point you get good at that and then you don't necessarily manufacture. That goes to the guys who are experts at it. Again, not a printer, not a consultant. I'm just an entrepreneur. But Jim, I'd love to hear your view on this. You've been quiet and you have
Well,
some opinions.
from a long-term value perspective, Mike is absolutely right. What adds value to your business is selling solutions, not selling jobs. And the more sticky you can make your customer, the more value you add to your business. And then from a commercial printing perspective, um, the more you can shift from static commercial print to one-to-one direct marketing, personalization, transactional print, that adds value, that adds stickiness. That's selling solutions, not selling jobs, and that will build value for the owners over the long term and over the course of time. Those companies can generate the exact same revenue and the exact same EBITDA as a traditional commercial printer, but they're going to be valued at 30 or 40 or 50% higher when they go to sell because of the type of work they're doing.
Right. I totally agree. Arika, your turn.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It's going to be more of a consultative, like advisor type of role as we continue to move forward. I think if you look at some of these barriers and you look at some of the things that they're right, tariffs, government regulations, economic, succession issues, supply chain, a lot of these things, like the link between all of them is uncertainty, right? And when people are uncertain, they're fearful. And when you think about that, the way that they feel more confident, with the people they're partnering with is how well they're educated. So what are we doing, as we go out there in front of customers, whether it's print, whether it's paper, whichever part of the supply chain you're in, how are we better educating them? Are we partnering with, our other counterparts to educate ourselves as much as we can? Because the more knowledge we can have, the better and more confident we can feel in some of those decisions we're making and kind of how we're growing. But uncertainty is really the link in a lot of these barriers, and how you advise people, how you educate them, what you bring to the table to help them feel more confident in the things that you're providing and the service you're providing is going to make the most impact.
Right. And I think we all agree. Print is not going away. Direct mail is not going away. We are in a transitionary period, technologically and consolidation and specialization wise. But um, someone just made a comment that print volume is increasing 3.5% cumulative year over year growth, and it should trend towards 704 billion by 2031, I'm sorry, from 594 billion this year. So there is good growth, but that commercial print is including absolutely everything. I imagine that's probably
A
books,
lot of books are
magazines.
growing.
Yeah. So if you divide that into subsets, I know that there's many. I mean, we all believe, and still, I'm pretty sure you could know more than me. Wide format is growing. Um, uh, Signage is growing. I mean, all that's considered print, you know?
Packaging.
Uh, yeah. So there definitely is, but those growths may be what's pulling the rest of it up, where maybe direct mail or marketing mail. Transactional is probably growing. Every year more people have credit cards. There's more regulation. You got to send out those little forms. It's not growing. I get those
Seven
eight
seven
page.
percent 7% decline year over year for the last 4 years, and it's forecast to keep going down. But what we're seeing in transactional, yeah, that 7% decline, you've got it's being. I'll let you finish, but yeah, transactions
No, no,
going down. So
that's interesting to me because I figure as the population grows and regulation, they have to disclose more and more those little eight-page tiny print little things we get from our credit cards that go right into the trash, by the way. I don't know anyone that's ever read those in the history of the world, unless somebody has
Synchrony
here.
will charge you $1.50 a month if you want a paper statement and paper communications. So we've got
I,
some banks actually going down that road.
I've seen that.
They
I
fought
have a credit
hard
card.
for the regulation changes to let them do that.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you a case in point. I went out with one of the large printers in Chicago to a very, 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 very large bank who does a lot of direct mail. And a new VP came in, and his attitude was, "Oh, we're going to get rid of all this paper stuff and 100% digital." I mean, radical change in mindset, almost a zero-based budgeting approach. And they went down that road for about a month, and the results were so horrible. They
Really?
went back and realized layering omni-channel, that's how you get the magic, right? So Nordstrom, there's a lot of case studies that have been done over
Yeah.
the last 5 years. Nordstrom has gone through this. J. Jill's gone through this. We've had a lot of retailers that have stubbed their toes saying, "Oh, we're going to move away from direct mail." You learn your lesson, and the smart money is on testing, finding what works, proving that to your customer. Let them realize, okay, it makes sense to do an email 2 days after I do the direct mail, or the email as a warm up, 2 days before the direct mail hits. So we've got the technology with the Postal Service and some of the incredible programs they've got. We've got this cool technology to know when a piece is going to be in home. IMDb works, or IMB works. You can layer that with your omni-channel campaigns. There's so much magic now in the workflows that we can put together. We can make these campaigns gin up ROIs off the chart.
Right.
Hey,
Interesting.
Brad. Hey, Brad, if I
Yeah.
could add one of the things, actually 2 points. One, that I want to echo something Arika said about the way that we speak to people and the way we sell from a consultative standpoint. I'm reminded of the first book I bought when I got into sales, called Strategic Selling, and then the follow-up was Consultative Selling with Miller
Yeah.
Hyman. That was like in 1980. And guess what? It's still very, very,
Still holds true.
probably as relevant, if not more today than ever before. The problem is, and this would be a great poll. Ask the company owners or sales leaders how many of their salespeople. What was the best sales book anybody in their sales team has read this year, or actually in the last 5 years? I'll wait.
Yeah. All right.
It's a short
If
list.
anybody's read a sales book that they recommend, put it in the chat.
But
I'm a big believer. Always be learning. Always be learning.
Here's the other part, though, Brad, is that, and we talk about the overall market and whether it's increased or whether it's flat or decreasing. One thing we can't overlook is that the distribution of the revenue is changing dramatically. Meaning, to me anyway, it's the haves and have-nots. We've always had profit leaders in the industry, and we had everybody else. If you go back to, I think it's the 2008, 2009 recession, up until that point, the gap between both of those groups kind of stayed consistent, right? Everybody increased as business got up, everybody went down when business went down. But since then, the gap between the haves and the have-nots continues to increase. It gets wider and wider and wider. And I think it's those firms that, as I view it, they've tightened their circle, meaning they're trying not to be all things to all people anymore. They've picked either 3 or 4 different verticals and really become great at that, or they've become 2 or 3 product lines and really, really be good at that. They've elected not to be a public utility, which means they just do work for anybody whose check will clear, right?
Nice.
And there is still room for that. Don't get me wrong, right? Because there's a lot of different, and Jim sees this all the time. You have companies that are more lifestyle businesses and are doing just fine, and they will be here like forever. But the companies that are really trying to grow and really trying to create opportunities, not only for their staff, their community, their customers, those are the ones that are really making those difficult decisions, and electing to kind of, again, I tighten up the circle. Instead of doing work for this many people, we're going to do work for this many people. But you know what? We're going to be the very best at what we can do.
Mike,
I'm seeing a lot more of that.
and I was just going to say, Mike, before you started that, and you're absolutely right. More and more today, we see the real successful companies print as a percentage of their total revenue is maybe 50 or 60% or 65% of revenue. And their other revenue is driven through data analytics, through fulfillment, through ad specialty sales, through other services that they're charging for on top of the print. And print is part of what they sell. It's still an important part of their go-to-market strategy. But they have become successful MSPs and one-stop shops for those customers. But again, not selling to everybody. They're selling to a select group of clients that they've targeted and they want to go after. And print now is 60% of that revenue they derive from those clients.
It's the old adage of fire your...
Jim. I'll pile on Jim just for a second. I have a lot of dumb sayings, but one of them is that we've really become a technology business that happens to put ink and toner on paper. And the companies that have accepted that and embraced that and staffed for it and invested in it are the ones that are taking market share from everybody else. The others are trying to figure out what to do.
Agreed.
And they're growing and they're the profit leaders.
Let me take back the moderator hat for a second here, and I wanted to to our audience again. We're here for you. I'm hoping to have an open Q&A session. You've got some very talented people here that you can ask direct questions. I'll try to start that in 5 to 8 minutes. So I've cleared the Q&A. So if you're going to ask a question, please not in the chat. Put it in the Q&A so I can keep track of it and who you would like the question asked to. So please put it there. There's so much going on in the chat that it rolls up several screens every few minutes, and then I can't find it and keep track of it and moderate this panel. You know, I'm a one-man producer here, guys, today. So, but I would like to ask some questions, and I'll start with giving my own answer. Is, you know, everyone's going to ask this, so hopefully I'll preempt it, is where do you see the growth opportunities? And I think a lot of us have already mentioned that. And for me, it's really comes down to 2 things that I've found work. Specialization of your craft. It's very difficult to be all things to all people, okay? There's companies that do it, Amazon, you know, but you got to have some real money and some big, huge amounts of talent behind you. The other thing is you must give before you receive, okay? You have to help your customer before they will trust and give you money. So whether it's free advice, whether it's going that extra mile, whether it's marketing advice, whether it's doing webinars like this, I'm not making anything. I'm not charging anybody anything. I am doing this, and I'll be honest to you, I like to learn. I like to understand things. So why not share this information with everybody? You become a trust leader and somebody will come to you for things. So that is my growth opportunity advice if you're in a MSP and you're not growing or you want to grow quicker. I'm gonna I'm gonna go to Arika next. To
Yeah, and I think we've, kind of hit on some of these, so I don't won't spend too much time on it being repetitive, but kind of like services wrapped around the product, right? So value add, really zoning in on what are those things that you can be a one-stop shop on, vertical integrated. How are you adding more value to the product or the service that you're providing, and being in one place so that there's not multiple touch points throughout that process. And then I would say like talent-led differentiation. I'm trying to find the right way to word that. But with this new generation coming in, utilizing AI, utilizing different technology, and in education, right? So again, to be repetitive, it really is that key part. How are you helping your customers? How are you helping your partners? How are you working within your supply chain? Just to educate yourself, to educate the people that you're working with, and really be that support structure for them. Everyone wants, as you said, that Amazon experience, right? Everyone wants it. So what can get you closer to that to make it easier for your customer?
Excellent. Mark, Jim, you have anything to add? Mike's already been quoted with giving the best advice so far. So,
No,
uh,
Mike is awesome. I love following him on LinkedIn. What I've
So,
seen,
so
one of
you're
the
the guy. I knew there was one.
you got a fan base, Mike. No, what I was going to say is one of the best things I've seen really, really smart print sales professionals do is the on-site lunch and learn, right? You got your ally in your client who gets it, who likes what you do, but they've got to sell what they want to do inside the organization to the other marketing folks, to the business line owners, to a whole cadre of other folks that you as a print sales rep, you're never going to get in front of. They don't want to talk to anybody about print, but they'll talk to their internal marketing folks. So the best thing I've seen done, you set up shop in a lunchroom, bring pizzas in, whatever. Get the kids who don't know that much about print or haven't seen some really inspirational campaigns, get them exposed to what's possible. Show much more show and tell than a talk and tell, and that's how you get the virality of it, right? You get more people talking about, hey, I saw this really cool idea. Why don't we give it a try? So it's that kind of inspirational, turn the light bulb on moment. And sometimes the only way to do that is physically in person, put things in their hands, and they start to get it, and then talk about it internally.
excellent. Thank you, Mark. And Jim, where do you see growth opportunities? What can people be doing?
Well, I think still seeing a lot of growth opportunities in packaging from the print perspective. That's still growing rapidly, and we see direct mail. I mean, particularly marketing direct mail, personalized one-to-one direct mail from a marketing perspective is still growing and still very popular. So you have to be able to sell both of those, and it may be a different sell or a different department that you're calling on, but those are still great ways to grow your print business.
Thank you. And Mike, you want to put a cherry on top of that point?
Yeah, so I'm gonna peel the onion back a little bit. So I agree with what everyone said about picking something, picking three things, doing those kinds of things. I think very, very important. I think one of the tactics that will help them get there, though, is to really take a hard look at how they make decisions internally. Because I see that as a huge barrier to growth for those that struggle with it, and a huge accelerator to growth for those who've got it down. Meaning, okay, what information do we need to make a good decision? Who's going to make it? Pros, cons, let's debate it. Let's make a decision, let's go. I'm not saying that to be reckless or careless or make decisions off the cuff, because I understand the consequences of making a bad decision. But I also have witnessed the huge impediments of not making decisions, right? And that's where I see a lot of this goes. So you can pick packaging, pick direct mail. What do you have a passion for? In fact, if you really want to work on it, read Jim Collins' good to great, and understand what that hedgehog concept is, right? Focus on the things that you can make money at, you can be the best at and you have a passion for it. If you don't have a passion for it, it's just a job,
Yeah.
right? I haven't been in this industry for 47 years because it's a job, right? This is fun figuring this stuff out, right? But understand your what's going on in your organization. Make better decisions. Don't lament. I see too many opportunities where people they can't decide, so they cancel each other out, and then they just don't make a decision. They just keep on going down the way they've been going, and it's just and they struggle with it, right? And so they need some help with that.
Yep, I agree. It's why I say it's 90% a mental game. You know, you have to be able to persist and drive, get excited about what you do, and even in the face of problems and barriers, you got to figure a way to get over, through, or around the mountain. You've got to, you know. So
This is a tough business. Let's not make any light of it, right? Whether you're at the bottom or you're at the top, it's not any easier. It's a tough business. A lot of moving parts.
well, thank you. Those are all great points, and I did want to ask each of you kind of because you know we all have different vantage points. Well, there's two things. I'll start with the shorter term one. What is the next disruptor in this industry in the next 2 to 4 years? What t- and we'll start with Erica on this one.
Yeah,
What do you
that's a
think is the next big disruptor? You know, some people have mentioned postage, and I know I've seen AI in the chat a few times, which is still playing itself out, and it could be. What do you think it is?
Yeah, and I do like the tech side of it, right? Because tech is very real, but I think it's broader than that. I really think it's like the next generation. So that may be a little bit broad of an answer, but it kind of ties into succession and the next generation that's going to come up and fill in the void for the workforce today and how they're being trained and how they're being educated. This next set of leaders that's about to step into more of the leadership roles within the industry. And how they plan to lead and how things are so different, and then how everyone else rallies around what that change looks like, right? So it is also very important to understand that change is inevitable, change is going to happen, and there's no way to know if that change is going to be a positive impact or a negative impact until you kind of start to get through it, and start to persevere through it. So I think this next generation, and how receptive everyone is to it could be the disruptor.
I agree. In fact, I want to have Jim follow on that. Is there a succession issue within this industry where the next generation, it's not print is not cool, it's not sexy, it's manufacturing, and they're not interested. So it's the companies are merging, selling, consolidating, liquidating, whatever. Is there a succession problem, Jim?
Maybe. Um, uh, Big picture, yes, there is, for all the reasons you just said. If you go back the last 5 or 10 or 15 years, businesses that had been second and third generation, that next generation didn't have any interest. The business was not sexy. It wasn't growing. It wasn't profitable enough for the whole family to make a nice living out of it. Uh, so for all those reasons, succession planning is a problem in the industry. With that said, there are also a lot of examples, and I guess I've recognized it more just in the last year or two, where I see good companies with good young leadership in their 30s and 40s that are taking the helm, have been well trained. Uh, when I say they've been well trained on what's worked in the past, but they're also very open to new direction and new ideas and new strategies. And I would just say from clients we've worked with in the last year and a half, I've become a little more optimistic about that, about a successful transition to that next generation that can carry the business for another 20 years or so.
Great.
So Jim,
Mark,
just to follow up a little bit with that too, it really does make a difference, with how prepared someone is to step into that spot, right? So when you look at the broader generation versus, zoning in on some of those specific companies, like you said, they took the time, they've trained their way in, and the company really they really rallied around and got prepared for that impact to the business. And they made that successful, change, and they built that plan. I think, was it Mike that was saying, it's really the leaders at the top right now that are developing those plans and what that looks like, right? If it doesn't start there and they don't start thinking about it and they're not developing it or getting the business ready for it, that's when you can see it as a disruptor.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There's been a lot of transition. It takes time, it takes training, but when done right, it can be very rewarding for the outgoing generation and the next generation and all the employees and the legacy of the business.
When we talk to printers and ask them, your biggest pain points, inevitably labor pops up as number one, number two, or number three issue. And it's labor across the board. It's they need to find people to run their presses. Now, trying to find offset pressmen, good luck with that. The average age is pushing 60 in a lot of plants. And what they're finding is having new, funky, fancy digital presses, they can attract a different level of operator. But what all of that is driving, the labor issues, the efficiency issues, what all of that is driving is this incredible demand for how do I produce more with less? How do I automate things? And I'm talking not just the automated workflows to get the data into the whole shop. It's the automated workflows to get the paper to move from where it starts to where it finishes, to get the mail trays out the door, to get from step one to step two, or reduce the number of steps in production, right? Going with the full inline automation system. So we're seeing printers looking at everything they do. How can I shrink the number of handoffs? How can I shrink the number of steps, which then shrinks the amount of labor needed, which alleviates the labor issue, but that also gets them to be more productive, higher throughput, more efficient. And you see that just across the board. We're a consolidating industry. You have to be more efficient. You have to be able to do more with less. And those are the folks that win. And I think, to your point, Jim, it's a lot of the companies with those younger, smart leaders are looking at it through that lens. How can just how do I white sheet it? How do I? You can't completely blow everything up and start over, right? But how can I take what I've got, start with a white sheet, and rearrange things? And I've seen companies that are 60, 70 years old do that.
Yeah. Good question, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
I do have
it.
a
That's
question.
exactly it.
A question from the audience, and we haven't talked about this, so I'll bring it up, and I hope that I'm directing the answer, and I'll take the lead on it. Todd says, how do you see marketers integrating AI into their print channels? So I'm assuming I'm reading this question is marketing agencies or people who do marketing for as clients or companies somehow using AI that directs them more to print as a channel. I think that we know here are assumptions. AI is smart. It knows what works and what doesn't most of the time. Direct mail works most of the time. However, direct mail is expensive, and I think everybody on this webinar has had a client or an experience where direct mail has not worked and they have not been happy. The client nor the print, the PSP doesn't like to have a failed campaign either. AI will help bring the level of certainty. There are no guarantees in marketing, but AI will help the marketer make less mistakes in print, which is expensive. Therefore, I believe it will help. In fact, not to toot my own horn here, but we have built a platform that predicts direct mail outcome based on AI, and we're in beta mode right now. And this has not been easy, and I'll tell you, I just thought, oh, we'll throw up some data, we'll crunch some numbers, we'll get some creative, and we'll mash it together, and output will be the hand of God telling people what to do where they don't lose money. Well, that didn't happen, okay? AI is not easy. If it was that easy, everyone would do it. So, we retooled a couple of times and improved the algorithms, and then we even went and got help from ChatGPT and Google Gemini and Claude to improve it. And now we have, by survey, produced a application that gives actual recommendations that people believe at this point will improve their direct mail results. That's based on past campaigns. So in terms of AI can improve anything. So things that are more risky, more dangerous, more uncertain is where AI will come in best in my eyes. It will speed things up and it will make things more accurate and make things more efficient. Uh, Direct mail is ripe for that, and that's why I built an application. And we're actually building all of our applications in AI and cross-referencing them for even more value to the customer. So if you guys would like to talk about different AI products you've seen, I'd be happy to hear about them for the last couple of minutes here. Anybody?
Hey, Brad, actually, I'm gonna steal something here. I want to go back to the succession thing real quick, if I could,
Okay.
because I see a lot of that.
Yeah,
And
there is another question about that. It wasn't you, Mike, that put this in here for me, was it?
no, no.
Okay.
Um, but it's twofold, right? It's getting the current generation ready to teach and ready to let go, right? And their inability to let go because it's hard to let go. And doing it and for the incoming generation to understand the psychological part of their parents or their aunts and uncles, whoever it may be, of what it means to kind of walk away. And how can we help them do that with dignity and make it smoother? I mean, that's a big deal. Um, the other part of it is oftentimes that next generation isn't ready. They're just not ready, right? And that's a shameless plug. That's why we started the Leadership Institute, the Graphic Communications Leadership Institute. We've got about 20 companies represented in that, of up and comers, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews that are learning how to become better leaders. I also think, though, and Jim can maybe speak to this, because there is that void. That's why we're seeing even more and more PE get involved in the business, even at smaller levels. They used to be involved in just the big companies. Now they're getting into even the smaller companies. We're seeing more family offices get involved to try to invest. And I'm running into people that got into it through ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition. I asked, how did you get into this business? Well, I was looking to buy a business and I stumbled into printing, and they're taking off. One of the things that they don't have to contend with, they don't have to unlearn how things used to be. They see how things are, and they see things where they want to be, and they work from there. So there's a lot of great opportunities out there for that on the succession side. Jim, I'm sure, has all kinds of tricks up his sleeve that he can help those folks
Let me
with.
read you this last question that's specifically about this, and then maybe Jim can answer it. By the way, I put the slide up, so if anybody wants to contact any of our panelists directly, there's a QR code for you to scan to reach them directly. The least I can do is pass along this information. But I'll read the question by an anonymous attendee. In succession plans and growth strategy, how do you convince an ownership group in a small commercial printing company of 14 people to invest the time, the people, and the capital to turn your shop into a service provider that puts ink and toner on paper, especially when you're in a leadership group with your hands tied to the overall ownership of the company in the later stage cycles of their career? Does that make sense? I think I get
That
it.
seems like a great question for Mike to answer.
I've never heard of that situation before.
Never at all. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so
and seriously, Mike can probably answer it better than me, but
Okay.
a 14-person company is a pretty small company. There's going to be a lot of challenges on where to invest because they probably can't afford to invest in all the places that are opportunities. They can't afford to make a mistake. Um, and if they're I shouldn't say that small. I mean, it's still a nice sized company, but uh, they're perhaps hesitant to hand off the reins to others and take chances on things that they haven't tried out. But Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
so Yes, to what Jim said. I would, to whoever the anonymous poster on this, I would go back and look at the mirror and how well have you sold this? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you have some good ideas that you're having a difficult time and getting across the finish line. I mean, I get it, right? So how have you done it? And is there a different way to approach it in such a way that you can convince them that it's a good idea? I'll give you a quick anecdote for that. A million years ago, one of my first stints as a sales manager, I kept trying to convince the CFO to I forget what I was trying to do, but trying to convince him of something. We would have these lengthy conversations, and he would just look at me very politely and nod his head, and I'd walk away, and like nothing would happen. We would just never get off the dime. And I realized, and then one time, for some reason, I decided to write something down. And I gave him like a 2-page dissertation on why I thought it was a good idea. The next day he said, "Yeah, this sounds like a great idea. Let's go for it." It was the same thing that I had been saying all along. But so one of the things it taught me was people absorb information differently. And you can tell me that the moon is made out of cheese and all that kind of whatever, and I'm not going to believe you until I see it in writing. Right? You can say we're going to give you a free ride to the moon, no strings attached. But until I see it in writing, I'm not going to take you seriously. Some people you just need to tell them. That's why when you go to a conference, what do? They give you the handout so you can read it. They tell you what they're going to tell you before they start. They show it to you on the screen, and in an audio sense, the guy talks about it. So hitting all those senses. So I would go back and have that person take a deep dive as far as basically you have to improve your selling skills.
Thank you. Just to be cognizant of everybody's time, I really want to thank, obviously, our audience, fantastic participation, our panelists, amazing sharing of ideas and concepts for everybody. It's been great. Please, if you want to contact any of these people on the panel, they would be more than happy to talk to you and continue their conversations. But this has been fantastic. There will be a recording up on our website within 48 hours, but I'm going to let everybody go. And thank you again, panelists and attendees. It's been fantastic. All right, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everybody.
Be
Thank you
well.
for hosting, Brad.